Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark, or not Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1982 Western, The Gray Fox.
Dirty, nervous, and unintelligent.
I'm not dirty. What are you guys talking about? I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1982 with The Gray Fox. This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 76% fresh rating from the audience. It stars Richard Farnsworth as Bill Miner / George Edwards and Jackie Burroughs as Catherine Flynn. Now, Richard Farnsworth was someone who the whole movie, I thought, I've seen this guy in a lot of things. I just can't really put my finger on it. And then I think I realized that he's in the movie The Natural. So I believe that is the movie that I've seen him in. I'm sure there's other movies or shows I've seen him in as well. But I don't think I've ever seen him as a lead character. And he does a pretty good job in this movie playing the lead role. The character of Bill Miner, he is a former stagecoach robber during the Wild West who ended up going to jail for his crimes for 33 years. When the movie picks up his life, he is getting out of jail. He is trying to reform himself, but he ends up falling off the wagon, so to speak, and he ends up going back to a life of crime.
Since my release from prison, I've realized something about myself. I've got to act on it. I'm just no good at work that's planned by other heads, and I've got ambitions in me that just won't quit.
Now, Bill Miner is someone who is supposed to be like a gentlemanly robber, so he tells his gang not to kill anyone. He's supposedly like very nice during his robberies. So that Farnsworth does a really good job playing like that nice type of character. But I don't know. I think there were points in this movie for me where he just seemed a little too aw shucks nice at times. Where it wasn't, his character wasn't all that interesting to me. I have to be 100% honest. Now, this is a different type of Western. It's not like the type of Westerns where it's cowboys and Indians. This is specifically just about him. He used to be a robber of stagecoaches. When he got out of jail, he saw the movie The Great Train Robbery and decided that he was going to start robbing trains. The first time he robs a train, it's a kind of a disaster where they try to blow the side of the train off with dynamite, and it doesn't work out too well. So he eventually kind of hones his mastery and hones his skill of the train robbery and becomes a really fine train robber. Now, throughout the movie, there's this sheriff, or I'm not sure, he's a police officer of some kind who is pursuing Miner. I believe Miner did all these crimes in the U.S., but the movie takes place in Canada because he ends up going to Canada to try to get away from the police. Try to get away from the law enforcement that's after him. While he's pursuing this life of crime, he also falls in love with a woman. He tells everyone in this town that his name is George Edwards because everyone apparently knows who Bill Miner is. He's this really famous guy. So he tells everyone he's George Edwards. They all believe him. That, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have social media back then where everyone's face is printed on something. So he falls in love, and then he says he's going to give up the life of crime. Again, this is the second time in the movie where he's decided that he's going to try to go the straight and narrow. Then he decides he's going to do one more just big robbery just to get out of his system, and he ends up getting caught. His girlfriend then offers to go with him, and he gives her that whole speech that you can't go with me because I'm a dangerous person and people are after me type of thing, and I'm gonna end up going to prison. But he says that if you'll go to the city and you'll wait for me when I get out of prison, I will meet you there. So he ends up going to prison and he ends up escaping. And then I believe at the end of the movie, we're led to believe that him and this girl end up together. Now, I don't know if this actually happened like in real life, if he actually met up with this girl, or if it's just something they did for the movie's sake. But I believe that's what it's telling us is the ending of the movie, is that he ends up with her and he ends up, living his life free from prison, which I also don't think was true. I think he actually did go back to jail and died in prison, but that might be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, throughout the movie, he is kind of told to be this Robin Hood-like character, where for some reason the whole town and everyone in Canada and everyone around him admires him. There's a lot of people who admire him because he's stealing money and he's stealing things from the train company. Now, I don't understand this. They don't really explain what part of that is to be admired, whether it's that the train company has some kind of chokehold on the city, or if they control the police. I don't really know why people love him so much for stealing from the train company. They even say in the movie there's a point where the cop who's pursuing Bill Miner tells another cop who is unwittingly housing him in his state or in his city, that there's a lot of people who admire this guy, but because he steals from the train company, but he doesn't go into any details. We're just supposed to assume we know why stealing from the train company is a good thing. Like, oh, screw the establishment, they must be a big corporation. Like, we should steal from them, and we should all be happy because they're rich.
He's clever at false identities. And this region is filled with people who like to think of him as some sort of hero.
But they make it seem like he's some sort of Robin Hood character, but he doesn't give to anyone but himself. He keeps the money for himself. So he's a Robin Hood in the sense that he robs from the rich, but he gives to himself, basically, is what his character is. Now, the sheriff in this town, who in the town that Bill Miner is staying in, when he learns that he's housing Bill Miner, he kind of gives Bill he kind of tells him, like, you should get out of town. He kind of gives him like a hint that cop is in the town looking for him. I also don't know why this cop also admires Bill Miner and also decides that he's going to bend the law in order to try to let Bill Miner get ahead of the law. Obviously, he's one of those people who holds Bill Miner in high esteem, and I don't know why he does. As far as I could tell, the movie never explains that why. It just seems like it's just a big gaping plot hole that never gets filled, at least for me. I mean, if you've seen the movie, I'm assuming a lot of people haven't seen this movie. I had never heard of The Gray Fox until I started doing this list, and I've seen probably 40 or 50 westerns in my life, including shows like Gunsmoke and Bonanza. I'm a huge westerns fan, and I've never heard of this movie. So I'm sure a lot of people have never heard of this movie. But I don't understand why. I mean, it's a big plot point in this movie. Like, it's a big reason why he's able to do what he does, is because if people know who Bill Miner is, they just don't say anything. So it's a big thing in this movie. I don't understand why it's that way. I really thought that the love story between Bill and Catherine was just pigeonholed in there just to have a love story. They meet under unusual circumstances, and I honestly didn't understand the attraction between the two of them. I didn't believe the love story between the two of them. I really just think it's there just because they need a reason for him to do one last caper and to make it go bad, even though it's based on a true story. Was this woman real? I don't know. Is this really why he did that final train robbery? Because he wanted to do it and then spend the rest of his life with this woman? I have no idea. It doesn't seem like it would be the case, but maybe it was. But that part wasn't believable to me at all. To be perfectly honest, the train robbery stuff is cool, but I would have loved this movie to be about his earlier life when he was robbing stagecoaches. Apparently, he came up with the phrase "hands up," and you wouldn't know that if you're watching this movie. It seems like that's a pretty famous phrase. You wouldn't know that because they don't tell you. And I'm sure his later life is fine. I mean, his later life is entertaining because he does rob trains. He went from robbing stagecoaches to robbing trains. But I don't know. I feel like his younger life, where he's actually doing the gentlemanly stuff, where he's telling his crew not to kill people, where he's doing the hands up thing, where he's honing his craft for what he was really known as, which is a stagecoach robber. I feel like that's the story there. That's the movie you want to tell. I probably would have enjoyed that type of movie more. And like I said, Farnsworth was a good actor, but not. I didn't think I thought he was too soft. Like, it's hard for me to believe, even though Bill Miner was a guy who was supposed to be a gentlemanly, kind type of person. It's hard for me to believe that he was this as soft as Farnsworth is. It's one of the first. It's probably the only Western I've ever seen where the lead actor is plays that kind of character. He's not like a hero because he's still robbing from trains, so he's not a hero. He's a criminal, and he doesn't do anything heroic. He doesn't have any type of heroic arc. He's kind of the same character, the same type of person throughout the entire movie up until the end, and it's just a very different type of Western character, which is fine. I mean, I love the John Wayne movies. I especially love James Stewart westerns. I like those type of westerns, but every now and then you want something that's doesn't push the boundaries of racism, which a lot of those westerns do. So it's a nice change of pace when a western isn't racist, which this one was not. But all in all, I thought this movie was kind of plain. Honestly, won't be probably a movie that I remember a few years from now even watching. I didn't think there was anything that spectacular about it. It was almost 2 hours. I don't want to say it was like slow, but it definitely wasn't a pace that I would have enjoyed a Western to be. All in all, I'm very close to the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. With my score, I am going to give it a 7.5. Thank you. I hope you join me for my next review, which is going to be The Local Hero. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.